All right, everyone. We are here live. I know we were doing Michael Elgin's Russell Wisdom for a while, but things have kind of taken a change. And
Big
there's
change.
there's there's a something that Elgin feels like deserves more focus. And I totally agree with him, and it's something I'm excited to take part in and be part of that journey. And that's going to debut tomorrow night. We're going to give you more details before we wrap up today. But we do have some other stuff we want to talk about leading up to what our next venture is in podcasting.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
gonna let you start out and take the lead.
Well, first, I think part of today, my wife's gonna voice in. She doesn't like being on camera. So hello, she sits beside me to open up, and then she'll in on things she might have some references from or some things to talk about as we go through today, like you said. And I think first we have to talk about the reason why we stopped the wrestling, like the initial why I went to the hospital and everything. But before, we'll do a quick hello from my wife. Say hello.
Hi.
So she doesn't like being on camera. We should be able to hear her on certain things because we're going to discuss a lot. And like Michael said, or Sunday Sinner said, we're going to kind of talk about why we're changing paths in this. And I'm going to really go in depth of why I think it's important for me personally. And when I brought up, like you said, everything to you, you said, yeah, I thought about doing this before, but then just never found the time. And I think it's something that all platforms that people are having conversations about is lacking. And we'll get into that deeper. But maybe we'll talk about why we stopped doing the podcast for at first, the wrestling.
Yeah, so let's jump into that. I mean, obviously, anyone that follows you on Twitter, Facebook, they kind of know you were in the hospital, but you didn't go into much details. I was in constant contact with you while you're in the hospital. I know there's a couple times you're like, let's just do the show tonight anyways, and I'm like, yeah, but you in the hospital, it may not be,
Right.
the best look. Um, because I think your health, obviously, your health is the most important thing.
Absolutely.
But that kind of is what led us to here. But I'm going to let you go ahead and go into some details about what got you to the hospital and kind of what happened while you were there.
Yeah. So in December, specifically on December 18th, at work, I was carrying boards with somebody who just happened to be intoxicated. And I'm not trying to make that person feel bad or anything like that. I do believe that alcoholism is a disease, and I know firsthand with people close to me, it's a struggle to really, break that habit. And he was intoxicated on the job, and we were carrying wall boards together, and they're kind of heavy. And it hit me at like the top and the side of the head and pushed my head down to my left side. And at first, I thought, okay, that kind of shocked my neck. Um, and I didn't think much of it. And then, beginning of January, I woke up and my whole left side was numb. I mean, I was having like my fingers. I couldn't have any feeling in my fingers. There were pins and needles. It was up to my forearm. I couldn't move my head side to side very well. And I mean, I know some of our streams you could see like I had to kind of stretch out, and I was taking muscle relaxers before, and that's why I was like, oh, we kind of got to end here because once they start making you feel loopy, you don't really think that you're making sense when you're talking. So I went through all of that with issues, and then February 19th, I woke up about 3:30 in the morning. My leg felt really tight and enlarged. So I came out to the living room, and I was still in the dark, so I didn't check anything out. And then my wonderful wife here woke up about, what would you say, 5:30?
No, it was like 4:30.
So she woke up about an hour later and heard me like grunting on the couch because I usually don't sell pain in real life all that much. And she came out and took a look at my leg, and it was swollen. What would you say, about three times the size?
Your foot, yes. Your calf, about twice.
So my leg was all swollen. It was discolored. We went to the emergency room around here, which two days prior, I think I was talking to you then too. I went into the hospital because I'd woke up or the Sunday, my leg went completely numb when I was down in the basement, and I had to crawl up the stairs. I felt out of breath. It was very strange. So I went into the emergency actually the Monday, which would have been February 17th. They took some scans, said nothing's wrong, gave me some pills, and sent me home. And then the 2 days later, rushed back. They airlifted me from the local hospital here into St. Louis to a place that had a vascular wing. and I ended up having really bad blood clots in my leg. It's something they call PCD. I can't really pronounce the words. Inflammasia, Cortos, Dortons, or something like that. And apparently can be 20 to 40% if you don't catch it soon enough. And the chance of losing a leg with something like that is basically gain on the inside of your leg. So I went in on the Wednesday. They ended up having me a surgery the next week, and that surgery didn't work. Blood clots might have been formed for weeks, and I just finally got symptoms. So they had hardened and kind of thickened in place in the veins. So then I required a second surgery, which was a little bit more invasive, and that surgery didn't take. I came home, and about 30 hours later, I was back in emergency, and finally they did a third surgery, which finally took, and now I'm on blood thinners. So it was a scary 3 weeks of being in there, and the thought of possibly losing my leg and not understanding that a lot more was at stake. I have blood clots in my lung, so had it taken any more time to get seen, those could have filled up my lung and given me real problems, or any of the blood clots in my system already could have moved towards your brain or heart. So it was a scary situation. It was 3 weeks of my life that, man, it was tough, especially not seeing my son and not seeing my daughter.
Juice.
It was it was she's stealing my juice and saying it's hers. That's marriage for everyone. Um, but yeah, so like we said, I kind of wanted to get back to wrestling, um, especially the podcast, and then you were saying about the health, and I watched Elimination Chamber, and I think I might even text you. I know I kind of told my wife, like, it broke my heart watching it, being in this situation where if blood clots are something that I'm going to have a problem with the rest of my life, which means blood thinners for the rest of my life, that means I might not be able to wrestle ever again. Having them stuck in my lung, if I get too winded, that makes my opponents unsafe if I can't control my wind. And I've been pretty well known for being able to go long matches and not get tired. So it was a real concern, and it kind of broke my heart because of everything that has happened in my wrestling career. I think just earlier I sent you a text about Odyssey Jones being announced for WrestleCon. And I'm not saying whether he's guilty or innocent. I don't have anything to say about that. But you see the stories of him suing for defamation and him claiming that these issues are not true. And now he's on WrestleCon. And I've been screaming at the mountaintops that everything has been said about me. And not only have I proven to be untrue, but when people actually look at what was accused, then they go, oh, this isn't what I thought. I think you might have even said that before, right? Like, you don't know what you're actually accused of, because what happened was these movements happen and 40 people are accused. So then these websites just put, these are the people that were accused. And then if name number one was accused of hitting somebody or rape or sexual assault, then everybody in that list kind of gets put within the same thing. And one of the reasons why I wanted my wife here to kind of discuss a couple of these things is because I've seen, like, well, maybe if you work on yourself and do this, it's like, what are you talking about? One, I think we always should work on ourselves, whether things be said about you or you do things that are wrong or whatever. I think every day we should be working on ourselves. But not only that, it's like, what else does one have to do to get the opportunity to get back to where they once were? And I know I've discussed it heavily with you. I know I've discussed it heavily with my wife. It's like, I get working on yourself. And the biggest thing that I know I did incorrectly when I was single was I enjoyed the company of females, right? And you don't go into that situation. And this is a key component and why I'm kind of leading to with my wife. It's like, you can do that as long as you're not, lying, manipulating, and doing all these things to have that company. And I've released all the text messages. I've talked about everything. And to think somebody that you have any kind of feelings towards, whether it's love or like, or you just want what's best for them, you're not thinking that they're going to turn around because they don't get what they want from you and have these accusations said. And that's really what happened. And I'm not trying to dwell on the past. I'm just saying what hurts about wrestling when I watched Elimination Chamber and just how they were building to Mania and the amount of money that wrestlers are making right now. And it just kind of breaks my heart because, I mean, we've had the conversations too. It's like, I want to get back to the limelight in wrestling, not because I crave attention, but because it's something that I'm comfortable with, it's something that I'm good at, it's something that I know, it's something that I have and can make great money doing to support my family. I want to support my wife. I want to support my daughter. I want to support my son. I even want to help out my son's mother. No matter what happens there, I think too many people don't understand that at the core, most men want to take care of anybody who's in their realm of responsibility, whether that be a child's parent or their parents or everything. You know, my goal in wrestling not necessarily was to have a Lamborghini, but it was to make sure that my parents could be retired. It was make sure that my kids never go without what they need. And truthfully, I want to be able to give them what they want. It's to give my wife the house she loves, the house that she desires, the dream house that she wants, the dream life that she wants. And that's what's frustrating. And talking about in single why I like stuff and where this podcast is going. It's like when I met my wife, I think it was like 9 months and I couldn't even hold her hand. Like I didn't want to kiss, I didn't want anything. And I think her here, because me just telling a story obviously is not getting out there. People don't want to hear it. They're saying you're lying or you're manipulating or whatever, blah, 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 blah. But when we were setting up our first date, I actually sent my wife the accusations. I also sent her the access to proof. So I think that's important. And if I'm, saying something wrong, is that not kind of what happened when we first met?
Yeah.
And what were your thoughts of what was said about me? And then before you even looked at anything I had to negate what was said, what were your thoughts about what was said publicly about me? Because I actually sent you like the actual tweets that were sent, right?
Well,
Not like just a link to somebody saying what happened. Like I
no,
sent
but
you actually what the accusations
I
was.
looked everything up kind of before anyway, which I don't know if I ever told you, but just because I had been hurt and screwed over in so many relationships before that, meeting people online, it can be, you can meet anybody and hear anything, or, people post stuff online that's just to meet people. So I had kind of, looked them up before, but it's just the things that were online, it didn't have any like meat to it. It was just, oh, people said this, he did this, whatever, but it wasn't like, here's the proof, here's the women who said it, here's photos, here's this or that, whatever. And then, him showing me taking everybody to court and all the, proving everything wrong. So it's just kind of like, why would you not give somebody a chance that, he's got all the proof, it's all there, and people just don't want to listen because of the type of job he had and the light that he was in. you know when stuff like that comes out about movie stars and this and that, it's the same kind of thing. You get scrutinized a lot more when you're in that type of light than if you're just a normal person. So, I wasn't just going to let that stop me from meeting, now my husband. If I would have just been like, oh, sorry, I'm not going to believe all this because it's online. Like, everything's online. You can read about, vaccinations and everything else that people want to believe, and none of it's true. So it just, you know, I just kind of went with my gut and just see what happens. And now look, married and have a kid.
Yeah, so we met over 3 years ago, right? And like I said, it was 9 months where, I mean, I think at one time she joked about, do I need to sign an NDA or something for you to like get close to me? Is that not
I
something?
did. I said it.
Because it was so, I think people don't understand the effects that it has on somebody. And a lot of people will say like, well, nobody gets madder than somebody who's being accused of something they absolutely did. It's like, no, not at all. The worst thing that can happen is getting accused of something you really didn't do. And even more so, something you're strongly against. Like, what was that conversation we had? We had some conversation the other day. And something came up about if somebody did something towards her. And I said, I don't think you understand. Like, if somebody does something towards you, Piper or Jax, it's like it's murder. Like that's all that's the option. Like I am hunting them down. And she's like, I know. And I was like, there's no line there that you can even come close to before I'm going to react. And I've always been like that. And I've been like that with friends, with partners, especially with my children. It's like I was always the one that stood up for injustice, even in wrestling. Like, I remember sitting at Ring of Honor, and I'm not talking ill of these guys. This was many years ago. I like all three of them, but ACH was coming into Ring of Honor. He was having tryouts. He was getting used in Evolve, and I saw him as a talented wrestler. And I went up to Delirious, and Eddie Edwards, Roderick Strong, and Adam Cole were sitting right beside Delirious, and they were like, "We don't want ACH here. He's loud. He's obnoxious." And I just said, "Guys, sure, maybe he gets a little bit too comfortable too quick, but why wouldn't you want somebody with that kind of talent on our roster? Like, he's going to go to Evolve, or he can be here and he can be a guy for us, you know?" And that's, people have different opinions of everybody. And listen, ACH ended up annoying the shit out of me, but that didn't take away from his talent as a performer. And I've done that with so many other wrestlers. I mean, I remember in TNA, Scott D'Amore telling me, "Well, if Jake something doesn't want to be Jake Diener, then I'll just get somebody else. That's the role he's playing." And we're going to bat, me and Ethan Page and Josh Alexander, going to bat for them. They need to promote Jake something. Like, you're wasting him being a tag team with Cody Diener right now. And that's not a gripe on Cody Diener. It's just, I think now people see what Jake something has to offer. Like, he's one of those guys that people push for. And I did it with Ethan Page and Josh Alexander when I was on the Indies in Ontario. I would often get unbooked because I was pushing for them to get booked, and they weren't the guys that were over with the crowd that was in Ontario. It's like my whole career, I've kind of fought against injustice. And then having this stuff said and everything because I critiqued Jeff Cobb's wrestling. It's like, all of a sudden it seemed like I attacked Jeff Cobb as a person. No, I said there was things he needed to work on in wrestling that I was trying to give advice for, and he seemed to ignore it. Now, I'm not saying I'm all knowledgeable, but the fact is I already had a spot in New Japan. I was already there for a few years. I understood how it run. Now, if you're bringing in somebody to be my tag team partner, I want to have Hanson and Brody, Doc and Williams, or a Doc and Gordy type tag team that the Japanese audience go, "Oh, this is our new tag team." Because you hear about the legendary stories of the Road Warriors in Japan and how much money these guys made and how popular they were and how it really projected the rest of their career. So it was nothing personal, but I'm going to speak about people's wrestling sometimes. And maybe I could have been nicer when I spoke about people's wrestling. We all make mistakes. We all learn how to articulate ourselves better. We all learn how to have a conversation that's maybe a little bit more appropriate for others. And it's just weird how all this stuff happened. And it's like, then people are like, "Well, go work on yourself." Well, I've been working on myself my entire life, number one. But clearly over the last few years, because like she was even asking, I was like, "You know about the pull down bar I have?" And they're saying I stole protein in Japan when it's not a, you know what I mean? It's like, that's silly because she's in here in the States while I'm in Japan trying to get answers. She's not hearing anything because Noah's tight-lipped about it. And then I finally explained to her what happened, and then hours later it says that I stole protein, and she's like, "What's actually happening?" And it's funny enough, why would I steal protein over there when I think, what was it, 2 boxes of protein came like 3 days before I came home from that last trip to Japan?
Yeah.
Remember? Because I stayed at the house, right?
Hmm.
And it's like, it's just so silly. You know, these happen, and then these websites who now everybody seems to be calling out, which I've been calling out for 5 years of misinformation and saying all this stuff, and now everybody's got something to say about these sites, but yet I'm still kind of being punished for things I didn't even do. And it was driving me crazy. And that's where this goes into mental health. So we were talking about men's mental health and how there's really not platforms, and the platforms that are out there are quote unquote red pilled, and it's usually just seems like they're always talking about how terrible something or somebody else is rather than really helping young men and men of all ages with their mental health. Do you kind of see it that way too?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's not really much dedicated to men's mental health. Um, Obviously, mental health is important. Male, female,
Of
doesn't matter.
course.
But it does seem like there isn't, the way men and women process things a lot of time is different.
Yeah, very. I
Um,
think I don't even think it's a lot of times. I think she. This is another reason why I wanted my wife to chime in. Do you think that men and women kind of not only process but handle things that affect their mental health differently?
Completely.
Completely. See?
Try having a baby.
And yeah, I'm not doing that, thankfully. Knock on wood. Um, but yeah, so and there's just really not much that focuses on men's mental health, um, especially because it's a lot of times men won't admit to having mental health issues. It's gotten easier and it's kind of more
See, I don't believe that. And this is why I think the point of this podcast, and I'm not meaning to cut off your train of thought, but I've seen how people react to when men are really struggling. I mean, listen, I'm no fan of Sean Rassap, and we even joked about his tweet. But if you go look at his tweet saying he needed a break from social media, how many people were clowning him?
yeah.
And it's a lot of those people, and maybe he deserves some shit. But if his mental health is really wearing, then somebody needs to step in and help him out. And he has the luxury of not having to tweet. He could just write his news websites and put them out. And, people always say the internet's not real. And as much as I believe that, it's solely the internet that affected my career. I never got let go of a wrestling promotion because I was a bad person in the locker room. I've never been fired from a promotion. I've never been booked on an indie show and then they told me, "Oh, we can't use you again because you did this or did that." I went into every show trying to have the best match possible. I never phoned it in. I was never a difficult person to deal with in the locker room. I didn't care about jobbing or I mean, heck, I lost the Ring of Honor title because I told Delirious I should lose to Trevor Lee in the first round of Bola in 2014, and I ended up losing the title because of it. But I never cared about that because my whole thought process was helping the future of wrestling. But going back to this, it's like I don't think that people are really comfortable with men talking about the struggles that men have. And I have been open about it, and I get a lot of shit about it. They're like, "Oh, stop living in the past. Why are you bitching and complaining?" And it's like, no, I'm just being open about it because not enough people are open. And if anybody out there reads my story or hears me talk about something and it resonates with something with them, and I can say, hey, this is how I helped myself out of this, or this is how what I did helped me get out of this slump with this mental health. I think that platform is really important. Like you said, men kind of hold it in. We don't talk openly, and when we do talk openly about it, we're usually shunned. Really,
Yeah.
whether people want to.
And just because you saying that, shunned and everything, and with everybody online, it's so easy for people to tell him, go do something else. Like, quit thinking about the past or thinking about wrestling. Just go do something else. Like, go fix your life, go work on you, da 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 da. You have to think, he has done nothing but wrestle since what age?
14.
Okay, so this man doesn't have a resume. This man, if he made a resume, it would be wrestling. Yes, he's done other things. He can do construction, gardening, or landscaping, things like that. He did a lot of that. And you went to school for
Firefighting.
But I don't think this whole thing is going to be a firefighter anymore. Not saying that in a bad way, but ladders and everything. Sorry, babe. But so it's easy for people to say that, oh, just forget about it. Go do something else, da da da. This brain is wrestling. That's it. So it's, people, it's easy for them to say that, but that's what puts him in these states in his mind, and just, getting so angry and upset and just depressed about things. That's all he wants to do. That's all he really can do. Try making that money somewhere else, and you can't. And then that just puts you further into all the mental health and everything like that. So it's just people online. Yeah, nobody's going to touch you because you're behind a screen. But it's hard for him because that's all he knows.
And not only that, I think I made it clear to her. I made it definitely clear to you because we've had many talks. It's like, I want to support my family. They come first. I don't care about anything for me. I don't care about new clothes. I mean, I'm driving a Chevy Sonic now because I have sell my Bronco after I've already had to sell my dream car, which was a Challenger many years ago. I've sold my collectibles, my LJN figures that I had since I was literally a infant. Like I've never put myself first in these situations. And talking about wrestling, as much as I want to help people, I don't think that's helping me. I think talking about wrestling, and like she said, like I watch wrestling and go, man, it's so great right now. I would love to wrestle Chad Gable. I'd love to wrestle Seth Rollins. Or, man, me and CM Punk could be doing something great. Or even mid card stuff, not just to say I deserve to be in the main event, but like Andrade, um, Carmelo Hayes, LA Knight. Like, I just think of what I could do with them. And it kind of sucks because not only am I not able to do that, because if WWE signs me tomorrow, there's going to be people online bitching. And it's like, but you don't even know me. It's not somebody that's ever met me that says something online. And like she was saying, it's always somebody saying, well, go work on yourself or go do this. It's like, what do I have to work on? I'm married. I just had a daughter. I've helped out a million people in wrestling, which I still have done. Um, and when you're open about mental health, some people feel like you have to not talk about it. And it's like, no, we want to start a men's mental health podcast. No, we're not therapists. No, we can't tell you exactly what's going to help you, but we can at least talk about our life experiences, what helped us out of those life experiences. And if somebody out there can relate, because I think combined, we might have every last thing that a man could go through and have difficulties with kind of covered just between me and you, don't you think?
Yeah.
But
Uh,
sorry, I know we kind of went on a tirade. If there's anything you want to add or anything you want to say, like just chime in and say what you got to say and whatever you want to talk about before taking this new venture.
um, I think you covered a lot of, what had to be said. You kind of gave the story of how we got here and where we're going. It's exciting. Like you said, it's crazy that, going back to the Sean Ross Sapp thing. He posted about having mental health issues, and this was right after the Jamie Hayter situation, where she kind of called him out for, using her personal issues for clicks.
Yep.
And right after that, he was like, I did stuff away for, mental health, whatever. And everyone's like, no, you just got called out, you just got whatever. And I think people don't realize that, they're saying, oh, you're just saying mental health because this happened. Well, that's usually how, that's kind of how depression comes
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's the actions of other people or what someone else said. You never know what's going to trigger someone. And it can
Of
seem
course.
trivial to you that, oh, I just told this guy online he's an idiot. And, that isn't nothing major. But to them, that may have been like the thing that pushed them over the edge.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had to have this conversation with my boss this week. Actually, Thursday, I called her and talked to her for the first time since everything that happened went down. And I told her, I was like, this is mentally, it put me in a very bad place, like right on that edge of, do I even want to, keep going?
Mm-hmm.
Like I was right there, which I've never been that far in it, but my work is so important to me because I've dedicated so much time to it.
Yeah.
Um,
Listen,
and
I know what you're
you,
talking
you
about.
more than anyone know how that is, and I'm really good at what I do, which obviously, like my situation with my shoot job is very similar to you in wrestling. Like it's something I've dedicated a lot of time to. It's something that I feel like I am one of the best in the company at. And, it's not getting that recognition and having, kind of bullshit brought up and saying, well, this was said or you said, whatever. That really hit, that really showed. And we actually had a conversation Friday. And she's like, well, there's always opportunities in the future. There will be another position coming up. And I told her, I was like, I can't go through that again. Like,
Right.
even if it comes up, I'm not applying because I can't go through this again because that mentally almost ended like everything for me.
Yeah, and that's a good point because, like I said, am I mad that Sean Rassap says the things he does and then won't cover a story when I clear my name? That upsets me because it's hurt more than just my mental health. It's hurt my
Right.
family. It's hurt a lot of things, you know. But at the same point, I don't want to see people struggling. And sometimes, you know, and like you said, sometimes there's so much caked on that that last thing is just, you know, straw that broke the camel's back, literally. Like, you know, I've been through things where it's like, God, I don't know how I made it through that, and then one little thing at the end just destroys you, and it's
Mhm.
usually accumulation of things. And what really made me think about this mental health, men's mental health specifically podcast, and I don't necessarily want to say men specifically. I think that one of the factors that made me want to do this podcast was not only to help other men out there who may struggle, but I also want to help women understand the struggles that men have without going out there like your Andrew Tates and
Yeah.
your Jordan Petersons and stuff. And it seems like most of the time to lift up men, they're dragging women. And I don't want to
Oh,
do that.
absolutely.
You know, is there some instances where our interactions as men with women can hurt our mental health? Yes, but that's not saying that women are terrible. Um, they say just a lot of shitty things. Like I remember when I first saw clips of Andrew Tate, the one thing I saw, it's like, you know, where you go to the gym, get in shape, and worry about how you're going to make money and all that stuff. It's like, oh, this doesn't seem so bad. But I wasn't watching all the clips and I wasn't watching the full videos because I remember saying I've heard Andrew Tate say some stuff that seems good, and people are like, "Oh, you think Andrew Tate's good?" I'm like, "No, the thing I heard was good." But then you see the whole clip and it's like singlers this and that and horrors, and we don't talk like that to help young men. And then with my stay and still being off work and watching a lot of TV, and I watched that adolescent show on Netflix, and it
Mhm.
made me think like we are likely in a time where that could happen. But I don't remember that happening when I was younger. Like, if a girl didn't like me, call me a nerd, or was a fat kid growing up and called me fat, I just went to the gym. I learned how to deal with those issues, and really, mental health. I would say I probably didn't take it seriously until much later in life. Probably about 2018, I started really realizing what affected and how really severe your mental health problems can just shut down your whole body and make you not function. And another thing about that, I think the reason why, specifically when I'm speaking to men, typically go from zero mental health issues to like just the worst of it is because we hold in a lot. Like, we don't want to tell our spouses. We don't want to tell our parents. We don't want to tell our friends. We don't even want to tell a therapist. So we hold so much in and then let it explode. And then somebody's going, well, that's a counter of, well, men are told to be tough and do this. It's like, well, kind of, but not only are we told to be tough, society dictates that if you're not a certain way, you get shit on anyway. So sometimes it seems like there's no way out. And I've learned through really 5 years of studying. There's times where me and my wife will have a conversation, and she can attest to this too, where we'll like say something and just have a deep conversation. Like, hold on, can you remember what was said? I got to write this down, or I got to take an audio recording because these things fascinate me. Does that not happen quite often?
Yeah, he does that all the time, and he also likes to record me so then he can play it again later and be like, "No, see, you did say this."
But it's just little things like that. And then I have conversations with Jimmy Jacobs or Truth Martini, and we're all kind of been through this same instance, which was a big lift for this podcast we're doing tomorrow because we've talked about something that kind of all three of us have been through, and it kind of opens you up to be more freely to talk about stuff because I somebody can listen to this podcast and complain that men don't talk like that or don't act like that. It's like, no, 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 we do. It's just there's been so much, I don't know how to put it. There's been so many people and so many instances that have kind of told men that we can't be open about this. That even though when they say, hey, be open about it, we can't. You know, we're always kind of holding it back. And I think I'm comfortable in my position in life as my position of me solely. I want to open up about, you know, there was a time where I didn't want to live anymore and how that affected me and how the wrestling stuff has affected me and how social media has affected me and just how the injuries has affected me and all this kind of stuff that I think people really don't understand what we go through and why it becomes so severe. And that's not to say, some people think a therapist works. I know for me it didn't really work. Talking to somebody and then their answers being, well, how does that make you feel? It's like, well, I'm here. Obviously I feel like shit. Well, how can you fix this situation? Well, how can I fix a situation of somebody lying about me? But there is definitely ways that you can figure out how you put yourselves in that situation. And for me, and again, I don't want anybody to think the podcast we're doing is going to be a super religious podcast or anything, but I'm going to be open about things that have helped me. And for me, a lot of the things that I did need to work on were not necessarily living in a line with how the Bible says. Now, that's not to say that everybody has to be religious. I don't care what religion you believe in. I don't care if you don't believe in religion. The podcast that we're starting is about men's mental health, but I'm going to be open about my mental health, how I've solved the issues within my mental health, how I've helped my own mental health. And with friends that I have talked to over the last few years, because I have led groups and done some speeches for people, and I have definitely helped a few people that are close to me. And that doesn't mean that we have to talk religion or anything. But like I said, I know for my instance, I want to be 100% truthful and open about it. And I think with talking with you about this, you kind of feel the same way, that it's something that we can really venture into and hopefully help others kind of deal with situations that, truthfully, until you go through it and make it out on the other side, you are not equipped to handle it. I don't care what anybody says. Like, you're equipped to kind of push some stuff down and maybe not think about it as much as you think about other things. But until you get on the other side, I remember telling my cousin when I was in the hospital everything that's happened over the last 5 years, and his first words were, "I don't know how you're alive or not killed someone by now." And I said, "Yeah, man, it gets rough. And that's another thing, going back to that adolescence show on Netflix. It's like that they're depicting a young boy killing a young woman because she made fun of him. And I think that's because there's not enough strong leaders saying how you can work on yourself, and how ultimately, yes, people are going to say things, and yes, it's going to hurt, but the only way to change those things being said is to better yourself. And I think that's something that we're not talking about enough in a proper ways. Like I said, you're seeing Andrew Tate and those type of people, whatever podcast, all those podcasts that are red pilled. I think they more get off on making females look stupid and demeaning them than actually helping young men or men as a whole. Because I'm sure, I mean, we'll get into the podcast because I could go forever. Because when I was going to do a documentary about this type of stuff, I talked to a guy at my gym, and he's much older. I think he's in his 60s, and he had to take early retirement because he complimented one of his friends at work's hair, and a third party female told the boss in HR that she was uncomfortable with him telling his friend that the hair color she chose looked good on her. And he had to take early retirement because of it. It's like, really? That's crazy. And how it affected him, and how even the girl that he had complimented, who was his friend, said it's no big deal. And it's like, you don't know how much that affected him, even though that offended you. Why didn't that conversation happen between this third party and those two people? Hey, that was kind of off to me. Where is that okay with you? Rather than just taking it up the next level. And I think there's a lot of situations like that sometimes men face that women aren't faced pledged with. But I think other men have to understand how to get out of it, and I really hope that females can pay attention to, that might help them in their relationships with men, to understand what happens to the men in their lives when they go through things.
Yeah, I agree. And I do want to, make, we're obviously not we don't have the ultimate answer for everything. We're gonna, talk about things that help us, things that we have found through time that have made things a little easier for us. Maybe some things we tried that didn't make things easier for us. Our whole goal is to tell you about kind of our struggles, where we are, what we've done to get to where we are. But it's, there's no quick fix button for anything.
No.
Everyone's struggle is going to be different, and everyone's way of coping but we're here to maybe give you some hope and see, you may not do it the same way we did it, but it may give you the hope to find the way that gets
Yes.
you out of what you're going
Very
through.
well put. Very well put. So, starting tomorrow, are we going to do every Sunday, you think? Or what do you want to do?
Yeah, I think Sundays would be best.
Okay. Because they don't have to be long. And then when CIW's on a Sunday or something, maybe we'll just change it a day. But they don't have
Yeah.
to be long. Maybe each week we'll just go over something that we went through that affected our mental health, how we got out of it, check in with everybody. Hopefully, people come in the chat. Maybe they can say, hey, I'm going through this experience, something like that. Obviously, we're not therapists. We're not paid to do this. But if a voice of reason out there could be more kind about this situation, I think it can open up more conversations about men's mental health and how to really improve it because on firsthand, there's not a lot of stuff out there to help men's mental health, and not a lot of people understand it. There's guys out there that will say toughen up, to do this and do that, and it's easy to say that. I've been in that situation where I thought, you can just be tougher than that, but some things break people down, and maybe it's over time how it's developed and how people are brought up that it takes less sometimes. But like you said about Sean Ross, there's no knowledge of how much somebody's taken before that final straw. There's no knowledge of how deep somebody else's issues are with something else. And I think to cover it, and like I said, we both have been through so much. I've faced false accusations, um, losing my career, being broke, having to sell things that I was going to keep for my son for his future. And I think specifically being a father, that's a lot more difficult to handle mental health issues as a father because you have two, well, for me, for instance, I have two people that are looking up to me that I'm supposed to be a teacher there for, and to let those struggles happen is really difficult to even comprehend for me because I have these two beautiful children that I want to raise right and help kind of navigate this world. And if I'm struggling, it's like, man, what struggle do they have in their future? So I really want to do this podcast, not just for me, not just for you, not just for people out there listening, but for children who don't quite understand the kind of things. I've been through a custody battle, been in family law or family court, and I've been through so many issues that we know have kind of harmed men's mental health in society. And I want to do my best to give back to people in any community, especially the wrestling community. Because listen, guys, body dysmorphia, um, wanting to be at the next level and not quite getting there yet, wanting to be in better shape, wanting bigger opportunities, people online shitting all over clips and stuff like that. I get it. It can wear on your mental health. And I think it wears on women's and men's mental health equally. Sometimes women get way too over sexualized on social media, which I can't fathom what that would do there to their, mental health. I'm sure that sucks. I don't know. There's things that I will never understand about women or their mental health issues, just like there's things that women will never understand about men's mental health issues and just the things we have to endure and go through in our life. And like I said, I think not only helping others, but maybe giving a platform that women who might have a spouse or be new into the dating field again after a long time to understand men's mind frames, because we have so much out there saying how men are evil and men do this and men do that, and TV shows like Adolescence showing the extreme negatives that can happen when men aren't given opportunities to express themselves openly without judgment. So let's give them that platform. Let's have a situation where it's safe to talk about the things that stress us out, the things that harm our mental health, the things that make us not feel so good about life. And if we can openly discuss that, like you said, we don't have all the answers. But if I can say, oh, I went through a rough breakup once, and this is how it affected me mentally, and this is how it helped me. And maybe somebody out there listening is going through a tough breakup and it's hurting their mental health, and they're saying, "No, let's try what Sunday Sinner and Aaron talked about," or "I lost my job and somebody out there is dealing with that," or you know, uh, being health issues, work issues, All these things I think we're uniquely equipped to discuss because we've lived through it. You know, we've been through that. We're both almost 40. We've got quite a bit of time behind us to understand at least our own abilities and own mind frame going into the issues that we have faced. And if it can help anybody out there get through them with a little bit more oomph, and any women understand why maybe a man's a little distant or going through stuff, you know, it's tough. So um hopefully this will be something that can help people, and if not, maybe it's just a therapy session for me and you every Sunday to kind of talk about life.
Right. Either way, it's going to help someone, whether it's just us, whether
Right.
it's, people watching, someone's going to get help by that. And at the end of the day, that is the entire point of what we are doing.
Yeah, you know, and I think it's kind of a natural transition because you've been there since October with CIW. What has been my main focus with CIW?
Improve
Like
it.
me personally with them, but everything, right? Like I'm there
Yeah.
to help. I mean, you've seen what, maybe after intermission I start putting on my wrestling gear and putting my match together because I'm trying to help anybody else that I can, because to see others grow around you, especially as somebody who's run a wrestling school, who hopes to get back to running a wrestling school, who is a parent, I feel like that teaching and seeing somebody learn something new and comprehend it and then utilize it, it's like there's no better feeling in the world to me. I love it so much. And I think, like you said, if we can help anybody, even if it's just ourselves, I think this will be something that can greatly improve people. And like I've said, I'm sure you see it all the time. You know, I'm sick of seeing, oh, this feminism against masculinity and toxic masculinity and whatever they say negative about feminism. And it's like, is there negatives in both? Yeah, man, there's negatives in everything in the world. But is it the movements that are negative or the people that are loudly voicing the movements that are negative? And what I think, it's the people that loudly voice the
Yes.
movements, you know?
Yes.
Like, there's no reason
Every
why women can't have the equal opportunity that men do. And there's no reason that men have to go out there and fucking slut shame people. It's fine to say, hey, for me personally, I have 2 kids. If I was single, I would not date somebody with an OnlyFans. Not because I hate OnlyFans, not because I don't support people making money. It's because I do not want my kids to be around that. Now, if they were growing up and over 18, then it would be freedom. But I have a 9-year old and a 6-month old that needs upbringing, and that's not something I would upbring them around, is OnlyFans. You know, just the same thing about, oh, single mothers are for what, recreational use. It's like, no, single mothers are great people. But the one determining factor that men do have to realize, if you're getting into a relationship with a single mother and you don't have kids of your own, if you guys break up, you have no rights to those kids. So if you go into a single mother relationship, you could learn to love those kids equally as much as her. And then if she breaks up, you have no rights to those kids. But people don't voice that. They just say, "Oh, why would you be with somebody who let somebody else have kids with them and then they don't care about them?" It's like that doesn't necessarily mean it's the mother's fault. It could be the father's fault.
yeah.
It could be both of their faults. But to just go out there and disparage people who are in a situation like that, rather than saying, as a man, this is how I feel about it. So if you're mentally prepared and understand that, then go have a great relationship with somebody who has kids. But mentally, the preparation has to be, if something happens in this relationship, am I going to be stuck not seeing kids that I've learned to love? You know, and that's something that I've went through too. When I was younger, I dated a girl who had a kid, and it was that was the hardest thing for years after. I left gifts on their door for his birthday and Christmas because I had grown to have a relationship with the son, not just the woman I was dating. So it's like there's a lot of those
I'm
type
here
of things I
too.
want to talk about with the men's mental health, because we have so many loud voices that are just, hey baby, so many loud voices. Sorry, she brought up my daughter. But it's just like there's so many loud voices out there that are so negative towards the other gender, and I think that's why we have all this hate. You know, it's just like wrestling social media. You have people who are so gung ho to be like AEW versus WWE. It's like, no, 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 no. Let's just have both of these be great. Let's have them both have great viewers and great revenue and great rosters, so there's more wrestling out there for everybody to enjoy, and more wrestling out there for wrestlers to make money in. It's like, I don't know why people have to, just because you have a positive or strong stance of something does not mean you have to have the exact opposite stance about something else.
It's like that, you know. Do you want pancakes? No, I'm not really a fan of or do you want waffles? Yeah, I like waffles. Oh, so you hate pancakes?
Right.
Like, no, no, I prefer waffles. Like it's fine. I want pancake. I want people that like pancakes to have pancakes.
Yes.
But damn it, I want waffles.
Yeah, and
Like
it's just
that's
so that's another part. Like, I want to discuss those topics that get put out there because that is part of men's mental health. I mean, kids love screen time right now, especially teenagers, and even with the rise of content creators, kind of everybody's stuck to a screen at some point in their life, and to think that that can't have an effect on your mental health is wrong. So I really, we're just talking about the world as it is, how it affects men's mental health, what's helped us, and if there is ever a situation like that show Adolescence, or kids being violent because they're getting info and knowledge from the wrong sources, given in the wrong tone with the wrong expressions. We don't want that. We want a safe place for everybody that can handle, really how to overcome these issues that so many people have faced. And that's something I really look forward to because you burping a little bit, baby? Huh? But yeah, so it's just like we want a platform that we can openly discuss, be open, talk about everything. I know for me, from my perspective, I'm going to be brutally honest about everything. Things that I did by myself that affected my mental health, whether it be in the moment or much later in life. And I think it's just kind of be like a discovery type podcast of what's brought us there. I'm going to talk about things that happened in my younger years that I didn't know had an effect until later, and how that actually helped me figure out solutions for things later in life. So I'm really excited for this, and I hope you are too. And I think that we are going to inevitably talk about wrestling a little bit on it, but for the main purpose of it is to help others maybe have a new perspective or find new ways how to deal with situations that might have a negative effect on their mental health.
I agree, and I look forward to it. It's tomorrow. We're gonna launch it, and I think we're gonna have some success. And even if we don't have success, we're gonna touch some people. We're gonna help some
Yeah,
people out and let them know they're not alone.
yeah, I think it's going to be very beneficial, and the good thing is now that even though she wasn't on camera long, at least she got some sound bites in. Maybe I can even have her join us a couple times just to talk about things because her perspective might be very unique to the men's mental health sphere too.
Absolutely, it's never you can never have too many voices when it comes to mental health because everyone
Agreed.
views things differently. You could view it one way. I could see it as something different, and your wife could have a totally different view than both of us.
Yeah,
But and we put them all three together, and that's how you find solutions.
I
So
agree.
I look forward to that. So we will be back tomorrow night for our first episode. We thank everyone for watching and listening. If you're listening on one of the podcast platforms, but we will be back tomorrow for more mental health talk.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you coming on. Hopefully, as much as I would love to get back to wrestling, I am dealing with injuries still. And maybe somebody will hear my wife chime in on this and go, well, maybe we were lied to, and maybe not. But at the end of the day, like I said, I gotta move on from some of the wrestling talk because it does definitely negatively affect my mental health some days. Not necessarily during when I talk about it. It's like my kids when I talk about wrestling. It's I put a lot of years and effort into it, so it almost was like a child that I grew from a little embryo up until this person, and to lose it has been very tough. But I still absolutely love it. But I think that due to that, it kind of opened up my mind frame to there's other things that I have knowledge about due to my time in wrestling. and due to what negatively affected my wrestling career, that I think using this platform to discuss that, like you said, I think helping people is crucial, and I really want to be in the position to help people where it's important. And as important as wrestling is to me, I think mental health is more important to more people than just wrestling. So we're going to be able to discuss a lot of things for a lot of different people out there.
Yes, sir. So check us out tomorrow wherever you watch us at, because we will be back.
Is that
and
true?
we
Are
will,
you going to watch too, baby? Are you? You want to say hello real quick? Can she say hello real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Come here, baby. Oh, she wants to say hello real quick. Piper, say hello. No? You want to look at the dog instead?
Over here.
Ah, there we go. No, she's fascinated on the dog now, baby. Yeah, there's a smile. Okay, well, we will see you all tomorrow. Here you go, baby. Ah. And, oh, Rex wants to say hello, too. Rex, can you look up a bit? Can you see his big head?
I see
yeah.
that big snout.
Here, maybe we can get him on. Rex, where are you? Come over here. Okay. Yeah. All right. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you, Mike, for today and getting this announced. And let's rock and roll for the future.
Sounds like a plan. We will see everyone tomorrow.
See everyone tomorrow. Take it easy, my friend.
You.